to know the very heart motives, the thoughts and motives of someone, but to know their motives behind what they're doing. My husband was a prophet with the motivational gift of prophecy, and he knew, he just was that way. He knew immediately what your motives were about, whether they were good or bad, whether they had intent in a situation. He just knew these things. And that's why he would, or they would, be so easily able to zero in and deal with things and confront things and speak to things and know what's going on. But you and I know, just like the prophet who gets the revelation and knows the heart and motives and the thoughts of people, like Jesus did with the Pharisees and the Sadducees, the gift of the Spirit sometimes, the motive gift as well. You see, Jesus walked in all 7 motive gifts all the time. But a person with the motive gift of prophecy, even if they're not in the ministry, there is that design of God in them and that gift working through them, causing them to know that person's not doing right. That's a bad man. My husband could spot people blocks away. He would know them. I've never known another person who could know people as well as he did. He just knew them. He knew their character, their quality of character, or bad or good. He knew their motives. He knew what they were up to. And, yeah. But you can see, can't you, where people wouldn't like that too much. And so though he was loved by everyone, those were the things that worked in his life that made people nervous and back up. And bad boys really backed up. Fast. Long way. And leaders in the church, if he would come and say, that has to stop. You can't do those things. You can't treat people like this. Oh my. They didn't like him too much. But that's what John the Baptist did, didn't he? He did that. He came to the king and said, you can't have her. It's not right for you to have her. She's not your wife. She's another man's wife. That won't go. And we look at that sometimes and think that that's, you know, that's, how could somebody be so personal in someone else's life? And what right do you have? Because after all, we're not to judge, right? And we're not to this and we're not to that. And so the church looks at some of this and says, that's not right. But it is right sometimes. It's necessary sometimes. And when it's God, it needs to happen. John the Baptist was a prophet with the motivational gift of prophecy. That's why I say jokingly to people, you know, if in an audience or something and we're talking about some things, I might say, how many of you are married to John the Baptist? You know? And they might laugh and say, oh, that's cute. But there might be a woman or two out there that says, I got one at home. I understand what you're talking about. Because that's what it's like in some ways. And so when you think of this gift, one of the people you can think of is John the Baptist, because that's the gift he had. This gift can expose a troublemaker before trouble even starts. The watchman, like the prophet, the watchman. And that is what they will tend to do. They will stop the problem before it even starts, if they can do it. They'll catch it ahead of time. They'll see it ahead of time. They'll see it coming down the street, if you will, and they're going to go right after it to stop it before it even starts. And I want to tell you, that bothers Christians a whole bunch. Because most Christians can't even see that there's anything wrong. They don't know anything's coming. They want to know, what are you doing in the man's business? He's not doing anything wrong or whatever. But that gift will tell them, yes, he is. Yes, it's coming. And it's my job to stop it before it ever gets there. My husband was notorious at that. He was always after doing that. Stopping problems before they got there. It's a big deal to do that. How wonderful if we had the motive gift of prophecy working properly in the church to ward off, not just the prophets, but this gift, to ward off half of the trouble that we run into. The problems in the church, all the stuff in families. If we would recognize and yield to the truth, we would stop a whole bunch of what we deal with. But the church blocks these gifts for comfortability. They're not comfortable. This gift is not comfortable. But it's needed, it's necessary, it's important. And so these people are going to block it before it ever comes. They're the watchmen. And that's why I say, if you're a prophet with the motivational gift of prophecy, you're on the wall all the time. Okay? These are the watchmen that are always watching. Always looking. And we think, what are you always looking for trouble for? You're not supposed to be looking for it. Oh, they are. That's their job. Somebody's supposed to be, aren't they? So the rest of the body can be at peace and be calm and happy and go about their business and not have to be worried about enemies all the time or what have you. God has placed in the body prophets for that purpose and people with the motivational gift of prophecy for that purpose. To be the watchman, to see the trouble, to watch for things that are out of order that are going to cause trouble, and go and address them, deal with them, sound the alarm to them so it can be stopped before it ever starts. That's what they're like.